All right, so we just watched a demo of our new DVP661 video processor. Now let's jump into the software and check out how we did it. You're going to log in to the software that's on the box through a web browser. So you just type in the IP address here and you'll come up with a login screen. And you hit connect. I've already connected, so I'll just come over here and hit control. This is our main control area where I was modifying input windows, recalling layouts, and that kind of stuff. But if this is the first time you set the system up, you're going to want to go to configuration first. So if I click configuration, you'll see I have output timing. So I can select from anything in the list here up to 4K 60. I'm running 1080p in this demo because that's what my capture card supports. You can also come in and build a custom timing if you have a custom like LED wall or a need for a custom resolution not found in our list. You can build that here. Color format, you're able to select between RGB or YCBCR, otherwise known as YUV, 444, 422, or 420. Now, this system supports full HDMI 2.0, so you are able to select 4K 60, RGB 8-bit with HDCP enabled or disabled. So I'm running HDCP enabled because I do have consumer content plugged in, like a Roku stick and a Fire Stick that require HDCP. If you don't need that, you can disable HDCP. So next up, you're going to go to your inputs and confirm the settings there. So if I click the setting wheel on input 1, I have the ability to select between embedded audio or analog audio. All 6 inputs and the output have analog audio connectors. You can also select whether you want HDCP enabled or disabled. You can select no or which version HDCP. If you're running 4K, you're going to need this bottom one, HDCP 2.2. Next up, you're able to change the EDID in order to force the correct resolution on your computer or other source that's plugged in. So if I enable this, that allows me to select from one of our built-in EDIDs in the list. So you can go up to UHD here, or you can use our calculator to calculate a custom timing. Maybe you're doing 3840 by 1080 or something like that because you have a wider aspect ratio display or video wall. So I select that and hit calculate, and I actually get all the advanced timings of that EDID information that I can further edit or just double check that they look good, and then I click set EDID. That's going to tell your computer or whatever HDMI source you have plugged in to send that resolution. That's the resolution your display wants. So we're emulating EDID on all the inputs. The one input that's going to be different, so all those inputs that are HDMI are going to have those EDID settings, HDCP settings. The one input that's different in this box, like I mentioned in the demo, is we have an IP player. So we have an IP input, and that is input 1. So if you're using IP inputs, it is input 1. You can select between HDMI or IP. I have IP selected. And then you open your playlist. So here's where you're going to build all your IP inputs or define those IP inputs. And what I have several in the system that are grouped as IP streams. That's like my H.264 camera coming in. I have media files. Those are video files that live on a USB stick that's plugged into the processor. And I have web pages defined. So I've got a few different web pages defined, and I can choose between any of those. So if I wanted to add a new one, for example, I can name it new IP input. And these are the types of IP inputs I can select. Again, USB file. You can play a video file off a network drive, web page, VNC viewer. So if you want to look at some remote computers over VNC, you can add those. Or like an H.265 stream, if I select that, I just need to type in the URL, which is typically given by the manufacturer of that camera. It'd be some sort of RTSP stream or something like that. You can plug in there. So I'll close that. One of the other cool features while we're here in this playlist functionality is the ability to display multiple IP or media content or sources on the same input. So it'll show up on the same input window in the processor like you saw in the demo. So right now I have a quad split, right? So on the left, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have these 4 web pages defined. I can save those as different groups as well. Or I can change the layout up here if I wanted to like select, just showing a single source. Now I have this selected, and then I would select a single source, or I can go back to my quad split. Let's see, quad web pages. We'll bring up all 4 web pages like I had them before. Great. Pretty cool stuff. All right, so I will close this. So that's about it for configuration. There are a few other features, such as, you can change the IP address, that kind of stuff, or upload a background image. I've got this picture of Hawaii I took about 10 years ago that I uploaded in the system. So I'm going to go to control. I'm ready to start doing stuff on the video wall. So if you look at the video wall, there's my picture of Hawaii that I took as the background. Now, at the top, I have my 6 HDMI inputs. Okay, I can click this little eye. It'll tell me the resolution that's coming in, my Roku, 1080p 60, and it's HDCP encrypted. And if I scroll down, you'll see here's all my IP inputs, just like what we just saw in that playlist where we're configuring the IP input. So I have my IP streams, like my camera, my media files, my web pages, that kind of stuff. So I can just start grabbing sources, like I'll click this PC and then I'll click over here on the wall, and you can see it drops my computer on the wall. I'll click the Roku, drop that in the center. Now I have this grid, like a 3x3 grid defined. You can see these little lines, and that just allows me to quickly, if I click in that grid, it'll open the input window within that grid. I can adjust that grid style if I want to be like a 2x2 or whatever. I've chosen 3x3. I'm not stuck in that grid though. So now that I've dropped it in there, I can then resize it however I want. Oh, this one, let's see. So I've made this one bigger, this input window. Now it's kind of covering another one. Well, that's a problem. So I can come over to my managed windows and actually change the Z order by dragging and dropping those. So now you see my demo PC is in the background, and I can say align to screen boundary. Perfect. Now I've got my demo PC in the background, a couple other sources on top, and now I would just come down to my layout section on the bottom and click save this layout. Great. So that's saved as layout 11, and I can change properties if I want to. New layout for demo. Cool. You can see the text updates on that button, and that's the layout we're currently in. So if I go to click this layout, for example, it's going to bring my PC full screen, and I go back to that new layout we built, layout 11. You can see there's that layout that we just built. Some of the other layouts like that we used in the demo, this one brings up all of our sources. We have another layout that just goes to a camera full screen. We have another layout that brings up our gaming PC full screen. And you'll notice there's a nice cross dissolve between these, a crossfade. So that's configurable as well. If I click this input window and I look down in the right properties, I have all these properties. So I can manually adjust the size and position if I didn't, or I can drag and drop. But if I want to just drag the corner of the window, that will resize it. But if I need some specific pixel sizing, I can do that down here. Keep aspect ratio, you can do cropping, so you can crop sources from any of the sides, left, right, top, or bottom. The insertion's kind of a cool thing, like if you wanted to adjust opacity, you could. So now I'm at 50% opacity on this source, so you can see through it to the background. That might be interesting for an effect you're going for. But if I want to affect how this input window changes to a new input, like go from input 1 to input 2, I can select crossfade or cut. So a fade's going to give you that nice dissolve between inputs. A cut is just going to give you a nice clean instant cut. Bam, cut to the new source. So then if I go back to another layout, you can see, there you go, cross dissolve, it goes big again. So currently I'm looking at 16 layouts. If I needed more, I can go up to 64 layouts here. These layouts can be recalled externally over IP. So if you have an external control system, you can recall the layouts over the IP, or you can just log in with the web browser into our software to recall those layouts. So that's the basics of video wall control and creating layouts. And just to hit another feature in here, we do have separate audio switching. So let's say you have audio coming in on either HDMI embedded or 2-channel analog separate audio on inputs. You can switch those to the output. So you just come in here and you just have a grid. So it's a single output, one output in the box, one HDMI, one analog output. And if I come here, this is going to switch my audio routing. Okay, well, if I go back to my all layouts for a closing, I think that's about it for the training. If you need further training or have more questions, want to demo the product, or just want to get in touch with us, please check out our website at DEXONUSA.com. Thanks.